Let's look at example 3.3.5. This example to illustrate for economic hypothesis. In this example, we want to test whether a decrease in price leads to an increase in sales revenue using p-value approach at alpha 0.05. In this case, the independent variable that is price is x2, and the corresponding parameter for x2 that is beta 2. So when we look at the statement given, a decrease in price leads to an increase in sales. So this is related to the statement for demand is price elastic. Price elastic means that ED here. So remember that the value of ED is always negative. So to say that the demand is price elastic, beta 2 here must be less than 0. So this is the claim for the statement. When we look at the statement given, focus on the inequalities here, means that you can see that there is no equals to, so that's why the statement here is under H1. Okay, so by using p-value approach, there are 4 steps of hypothesis testing. As usual, the first step is to construct the hypothesis, and the claim here is under H1. So the statement for H0, that is will be beta 2 greater than or equals to 0. So now complete step 1. Okay, we go to step 2. In step 2, we want to get the p-value for x2. The p-value for x2, this is x2, okay, can be obtained from this part, okay, by taking the value at 4 decimal places. So the p-value now is 0.0295. So complete step 2. Step 3, we want to make a decision on H0. So by using the standard rule for p-value approach, okay, and compare the value of p-value and alpha value given here, the decision for this example, that is reject H0. So since we reject H0, so reject H0 here, so that's why, okay, step 4, when we want to make a conclusion, so reject H0 means that we accept the claim. Okay, so the conclusion is at alpha equal to 0.05, there's evidence from the data to support that a reduction in price leads to an increase in sales revenue, or the demand is price elastic. So the strategy of price reduction here can be implemented by the management, okay, to increase sales revenue. We continue to the next example for economic hypothesis, that is example 3.3.6. In this example, we want to test whether an increase in advertising expenditure leads to an increase in sales revenue by using t-test approach at alpha 0.03. In this case, the independent variable that is advertising expenditure or x3. So the corresponding parameter for x3, that is beta 3. Okay. So when we look at the statement given, an increase in advertising expenditure. So increase here means that increase of 1 unit of advertising expenditure, okay, leads to an increase. So this means that beta 3 here must be greater than 1. Okay. So this is the claim for this statement. 1 here means that 1 unit of x3. Actually, this is related to the interpretation for B3 here. So we can see that an increase in advertising expenditure of RM100. Remember that the data for advertising expenditure in the unit used is RM100, means that 1 unit of X3. Okay, so that's why if beta 3 here, okay, greater than 1 means that, okay, advertising is effective. Okay, so that since the inequality used here that is greater than, so that and not equals to, so that this is under H1. Okay, by using t-test approach, there are 5 steps of hypothesis testing. As usual, the first step that is to construct the hypothesis. So, based on the claim here, the claim is under H1. So that H0 will be beta 3 less than or equals to 1. Okay, remember that 1 here is referred to beta 0. This one is a unit for X3. Okay, so now we go to step 2. In step 2, we want to calculate t-test. The formula for t-test, that is B3 minus beta 0 divided by standard error for B3. Okay, then after we substitute the value of B3, we can get the B3, the value for B3 here. Okay, this is the value for B3. Okay, takes the value at 4 decimal places. Minus 1. 1 here is beta 0 divided by standard error for B3. Okay, this is the standard error for B3. Okay, this is SEB3. So that t-test now is equals to 2.1273. So complete step 2. So now we go to step 3. Okay, in step 3, we want to construct the rejection region, okay, and the critical value. Okay, instead we want to establish the test criterion. So that since we use the test, so the first step is we plot the distribution. Okay, then to determine the rejection region, we can look at the inequality used in H1 that is greater than, means that this test is under right tail test. So that alpha given here, this is alpha, no need to divide by 2 because there is only one rejection region that lies on the right tail of the T distribution. Okay, for the probability for rejection here is 0.03. So means the critical value here, that is T 0.03 at a degrees of freedom. So the degrees of freedom, that is n for this case is 20. We have 20 data minus 3 here because of we have 2. Okay, 17 here actually is come from n is 20 minus k plus 1. K here actually is referred to how many independent variables that we have for this data. Remember that we have x2 and x3. Okay, and don't forget this is k plus 1. So for this case means that 20 minus 3. So that's why the degrees of freedom here that is 17. Okay, and by using statistical table for t 0.03 and a degrees of freedom 17, the value that is 2.0150. So now complete step 3. Okay, we go to step 4. In step 4, we want to make a decision on H0. Okay, so by comparing t test value and the t critical value, we can see that the t test now is greater than t critical value, or we can see that the t test value is lies on the rejection region. So the decision here is reject H0. So, and the last step, that is step 5. Okay, since we reject H0, means that we accept the claim. So we can conclude now that at alpha equals to 0.03, there is evidence from the data to support that advertising will be cost effective to sales revenue, or advertising is effective.